everybody now thinks natural means nutritionally sound. Not true.
Archana has worked with hundreds of pet parents on creating balanced meals for their dogs. These meals are not just fresh or balanced, they are scientifically appropriate with essential nutrients for the dogs. What's the biggest nutritional difference between kibble and fresh food?
So many. We'll break it down into three broad heads. First is you're talking about the
Are there any specific signs which indicate that the pet's diet needs to be changed?
if you're a parent who walks your dog, then poop or stool or caca or potty, whatever people want to call it, right? That is your biggest indicator.
If you could ban one ingredient from your dog food or meal which should not be given, what would it be?
This meat meal.
What's the biggest mistake pet parents make with their dog's food?
Okay, so one is obviously feeding your dog.
What's the one superfood you wish every pet should have every day?
Egg. One small egg has all the amino acids that you need.
Welcome to another episode of Tales of Tales with Manisha. Today we are talking to Archana, the founder of Hungry Hound. Archana is a certified canine nutritionist and the founder of Hungry Hound, Mumbai's bespoke fresh food services for dogs. With over 4 years, Archana has worked with hundreds of pet parents on creating balanced meals for their dogs. These meals are not just fresh or balanced, they are scientifically appropriate with essential nutrients for the dogs. Her approach bridges science and practicality, helping pet parents making more conscious choices for their dogs. Hi Archana.
Hi.
What's the biggest mistake pet parents make with their dog's food?
Okay, so one is obviously feeding your dog commercially processed food, all three meals, or assuming that every kibble is complete and balanced, right? I think the next thing that I would be a little concerned about is home cooked chicken and rice with as little or no fiber that goes in. In all of these scenarios, what is happening is you're either feeding something that's highly extruded, or you're completely giving an imbalanced meal. So, chicken and rice, just break it down, lacks all the nutrients or essential nutrients that we would normally want. Some examples could be zinc. You're lacking your omega fatty acids. You lack magnesium. There's iodine, and more importantly, calcium. So chicken itself is high on phosphorus. Then you're not substituting it with any eggs or eggshell powder, or you're not substituting it with or balancing it out with the supplements, which means that you're going to end up with a high phosphorus, low calcium, going to end up with bone, joint, and gut issues. So I think these 2-3 mistakes, like if you're doing kibble and you're doing all meals kibble, or if you're doing home meals, then you're doing a completely imbalanced home meal. So this, I think, is something that people should think about.
What inspired you to start Hungry Hound, and how did you take this journey to fresh food, completely fresh food for your dogs?
Like most pet startups, it's a cliche story only. Okay, nothing that's out of the ordinary. Of course, Bira, who's my 9-year-old beagle, he just turned 9 a few days back. He's the reason I got into this. We got him home, went through the same cycle that every pet parent goes through. There's like nothing different, okay? Go to the vet will say kibble. We started kibble, then I started transitioning to some home meals. Then the vet came back and said, no, this is like not good for your dog. So go back to kibble, and then we started dealing with chronic itching, terrible hot spots. We went from bacterial to fungal to trying to figure out what was working. Then finally everybody gave up, put him on steroids. He was on steroids for 2 years. And every time you try to wean him off, it would flare up again. Okay, then he became lethargic, became quiet, and he was just like 2 and a beagle. Okay, so I saw zero beagle energy at that point. And then finally I got like terribly frustrated. I said, chalo, let's just figure out what's working. We tried home meals. Figured that something was missing, like I mentioned to you, right? Even I went through the whole process of just doing home meals. Then moved to balanced meals where you bridge your gap with supplements. And now he's fine. He's 9 and he looks like a puppy. He's back to his silly beagle antiques, stealing food, the usual pawing. And now he's become like he went from a couch potato to like a canine athlete. That was in 4 words, that was his transformation. And all of this simply because of moving to a balanced meal. How I did this, of course, I studied. So I am a certified nutritionist. And then, my husband was saying, hey, listen, you couldn't do this alone, which I couldn't, right? If he wasn't there to be my resonating wall, or I couldn't bounce off ideas through him. He said, there are so many people out there who can't do something like this alone. There is a problem. You need to talk to somebody. You need to break it down and figure out solutions. So that's when we said, okay, let's make this a problem statement and a solution statement for everybody. That's where we started the kitchen, and now it's been over 3.5, 4 years doing well, dealing with all kinds of dogs, and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah.
So, how has pet parent awareness around nutrition evolved in India?
Extremely good in the last 5 years. And of course, it's an evolving subject, right? So, still evolving. Lots of people reading labels, which I think you and me would have also not done many years back. Lots of people asking questions on what is species appropriate, what should go into my dog's bowl, what is good, what is bad. So lots of questions. I'd say even 5 years back, we didn't have this. Okay. But again, the flip side is misinformation, right? Now, like we were talking sometime back, these exotic meats or grain free um, reels, or you're talking about doing raw, etc. All of it without guidance, all of it without balance, simply because of misinformation that's now available to us through AI tools, through the internet, through Instagram. People are coming, doing these hook reels and giving you zero context to what you're doing. So, good is that people are getting aware, and bad, of course, you're not reading enough to make an informed decision. I think the biggest bad thing is everybody now thinks natural means nutritionally sound. Not true. So, yeah, good and bad always.
Okay. So, what are the fundamentals of fresh food for dogs? And what does the process look like at Hungry Hound?
Fundamentals is the same thing, Manisha. What you would be a fundamental for you if you were eating a fresh meal at home, right? Obviously, the quality has to be good. The source of where you're getting it has to be good. The meat has to be lean. You would make sure that you're rotating enough. You would make sure that it has enough moisture to help break it down. Um, and you would make sure that you're giving a whole variety, a whole host of things, right? So those are basic fundamentals. What you would apply to yourself, you would also apply to the canines. My process is probably one of the reasons why people take some time to walk into the door, right? It's a slightly long, lengthy one. There's a really long Google form that people need to fill out. I look at blood work very importantly to see if the dog needs to go into a healthy diet or whether it has to go into a therapeutic meal. Or if it's a pup, then you don't do any blood work because you're still sort of growing, right? And as it is, the ranges will be off. Or if it's a senior and you've never tested your dog and believe it's healthy, you still want to look at numbers, and numbers don't lie, right? So once that's done, I do a video call. In most cases, I also meet my clients, do a face to face, my client being the dog, and the parent is just ancillary to it. So go do a quick visit, look at the temperament, look at the house, understand the number of caregivers, and understand my variables that I can work with. Okay, it's very easy for me to now give a plan and say, abhi ye follow karo, but let's say I'm working with a vegetarian family, then I would not want to do fresh fish. I'd want to do it in another form, right? So then we do the assessment, create a plan, give them a list of supplements, cook the food exactly as per the plan, and then it gets delivered. So the initial 3 weeks is an investment. After that, it's a very simple plug and play for the parent.
So, it's possible only in Bombay then?
Yep.
Okay. what does human grade mean when it comes to your pet food, and how is it different from conventional pet foods?
Okay, so human grade is food grade.
Hmm.
You, me, and whoever else is saying human grade would just think that okay, it's fit for human consumption, which in one line it is. But people don't understand that human grade also has three, four other things that you need to look at. So if you run a restaurant or a cloud kitchen for human beings, then you would have certain quality standards, certain safety standards, certain hygiene standards that you would want to maintain for you to make the food, cook it, and deliver it, you know, or product or whatever it is, right? So that is human grade. It's not just fit for human consumption, it's also following a lot of these guidelines to get the product out to the consumer. That is what human grade is. Now, with conventional pet food, all you do is you have food, this becomes feed grade, okay? And the first thing that you'll see is not fit for human consumption. So A, it's just feed. It's 4Ds is what we call it, okay? When we're looking at conventional pet food, it's the sad truth. 4Ds are either the animal is dead, or the animal is dying, or the animal is diseased, or the animal is disabled. Okay, so you would normally pick this up, put it into a machine, highly extrude it, process. Of course, you have killed all the allergens, the bacteria, and then you're now topping it up with synthetics. Okay, that is the conventional pet food. It is feed grade. It's not fit for human consumption. So that's the difference that you're looking at when you're talking about these two aspects.
Okay. What's the biggest nutritional difference between kibble and fresh food?
So many. Again, every brand of kibble is made differently, right? So you have like the cheapest available brand, you have premium, you have super premium. Uh, the nutritional deficiencies would vary. So I can't give you a straight answer, but we'll break it down into three broad heads. First is you're talking about the nutrient bioavailability. What is a nutrient? For the lack of a better word, an ingredient that goes in. How bioavailable is it to the system? That's your first question, right? Does it break down easily, or are we looking at the organs having to add a little more stress on the body and break it down? So how bioavailable, how appropriate is it for that animal? Second is you're looking at the macro consumption. What is a macro? A macro is your protein, fats, or your carbohydrates. What is the composition of this? In fresh food, you're obviously balancing out your proteins, you're balancing out your fats, you're balancing out your carbohydrates. In kibble, what are you doing? 60% will be 70%, 60%, depending on the brand, will be carbohydrates, gluten, soy, words that you beet pulp, etc., stuff that you would have normally not put in your dog's bowl. Why do they do this? So that it binds. Okay, so the second massive difference is the composition itself. The third one is called a micronutrient integrity. What is a micronutrient? It's your vitamins, minerals, and your water and all of the other things that you're looking at that should ideally be there in a meal, right? That integrity, is it there or is it lost, or are you then putting it in? So with fresh food, it's there. You're cooking it at slow temperatures, you're maintaining the nutritional value, you're also maintaining the zinc or selenium or any other vitamin B complex, etc., that's there in the meal. Here in kibble, what's happening? You're losing it. So there, the integrity is much lower. So these are typically the three differences that you would look at when you're looking at analyzing the differences in nutritional deficiencies.
So this pet nutrition, the topic of pet nutrition has become like very hot topic nowadays. And you will hear a lot of people say, we had dogs in villages also at our homes, and we used to feed them roti and jo bhi sabzi hoti thi. So those dogs were also very happy, healthy, survived for long.
Yeah.
So why the need for all this nutrition now?
Because look at our lifestyle, no? Those dogs that you're talking about. So I've grown up with dogs, and I had streeties that I would look after. I also did the same thing. Chicken curry, I'm saying, but chicken, made with rice and vegetables, rotis, breads, biscuits. But look at their lifestyle. They had space to run around. They could scavenge. They could decide not to eat a certain food that I was giving them. They had options to go to a dustbin and forage and pull out bones or pull out, a dead bird to eat, right? That option is not available, to our dogs in our household. Second thing is our lifestyle has become sedentary. We barely take our dogs out just to pee and poop. There is zero activity. You're dropping their energy levels by making them sit at home. And the most important thing that people are not thinking about today is how dogs are being bred. Genetics are off. Every second retriever that we have right now on our meal plans has hip dysplasia as young as 4 months. Why? Because illegal breeding, because of no ethical breeding. So you are already coming to people with a problem statement, and then you're saying, why can't I give roti? Because the dog is already immunocompromised, already has a problem. The least you can do is then support it with balanced food. Yeah.
Okay. So, what impact do fillers and preservatives have on the pet's health?
Fillers, I mean, you and me know, right? Let's say we're doing burgers every day with one small patty in the middle. So just your carb loading, there's almost no nutritional value. It's not dense enough for your body to, um, build immunity. Uh, it's just a filler. It's meant to be a filler. Okay. Uh, Preservatives, actually, very interesting point. Not many people would know. You flip over and look at the preservatives that go in. There are typically three. I'm talking about the lower end of the Kibble brands. There are three preservatives that are restricted and banned in some countries, which is still being used in Kibble. I think it's called BHA, BTA, and something else. I can't remember all the three names. But the preservatives that you're using are A, banned in some places, or two, you're using it to obviously build some shelf life, right? Now, what is happening? Again, you're putting something that's not very natural into the body. You're having to get your cellular and your organs to break it down. So, oxidative stress on your liver and kidneys, because they're the ones who are throwing out the toxins. And now the latest thing is all carcinogenic impact that's happening. So more and more dogs coming to us with cancer, which again is all fast food for you and me also, even our parents, right? How how often did we hear of human beings getting cancer? It's all happening now because of fast food. So that is what happens.
So, for busy pet parents, how do you balance nutrition and convenience?
Our food is portioned. Okay, so let's say you reach out and say, hey, listen, this is my diet plan. Or, hey, I don't have a diet plan. You make one for me. And let's say pet A needs to eat only 200 grams of food and pet B needs to eat 400 grams. You will get only 200 grams of food in one food grade pouch, which is ziplocked and sealed. And you'll get the next one, which is 400 grams. You break that into 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals, cut it open, put it in the bowl and feed. There's no reheating because we don't want you to lose any nutritional value. And if our meal has fish, though, you definitely can't reheat it because it oxidizes, right? So you just thaw it quite naturally and then, put it out. So it's quite convenient. In fact, it's so convenient that we have a lot of Jain families, who have gone above and beyond, and it's commendable. So they get their own little freezer for the doggy. They cut it, they serve it, and then the dog eats. So it's that convenient.
How does nutrition science translate into real health solutions for dogs?
Okay, so I'll break it down in two ways, okay? We'll try and keep it a little simple also. So you would look at nutritional science in two ways, either preventative or therapeutic, okay? Preventative is what? You say, okay, hey, listen, I've got a puppy now. I want to prevent from deformities. I want to make sure that has a good immune system once he grows up and he's growing as per the way he's supposed to be growing. Then you say, okay, now I'm going to do a balanced meal. So you're looking at preventative measures, or you're looking at a retriever who potentially could have hip dysplasia. And then you come and say, hey, listen, I want something that supports bone and joint. The other thing is therapeutic, where, now your dog's fallen ill because of excessive protein that's gone and you have a renal condition, or you've been completely feeding diet that just hasn't worked for the dog, so the dog is entirely inflamed, the whole body is red and filled with hot spots. Those are therapeutic plans that you would look at. So for us to help any animal that comes to me, we need to first understand which of the two categories it's falling into. Okay, if it's preventative, it's a lot of fun because you can actually give them a lot more variety. You can play around with the texture, you can cut out some supplements, you can add in some supplements, you can remove supplements for a while. There's a lot to play around with, right? But the minute it becomes a therapeutic meal, so let's say you come to me with a dog with a skin condition, I will have to move to a completely anti-inflammatory diet. You've been doing Kibble all your life, which is very high on omega 6s. Omega 6s are inflammatory in nature. Nobody's balancing it out with an omega 3 to make it anti inflammatory, right? So you will first understand, then maybe throw in some omegas, you'll move to novel meats, you'll move to anti inflammatory products. Let's say you come to me with a dog who has a renal condition. You'd have to make sure that the protein that's going in is adequate and is enough for the kidney to break down, or it's going in a state where it can break it down much more easily. So you'll need to sort of figure out where you are in the two categories and then walk backwards on a plan. How it helps is it's just magic. Food is magic.
What are the key nutrients every dog meal should have?
Okay, so this is irrespective of whether you're doing
Food type.
raw
Yeah.
or kibble or a balanced meal or a fresh balanced meal. You would need to make sure that you have all the amino acids, which comes in through protein through animal sources. Okay. Second is obviously you need to make sure that you have all the fatty acids that are going in. So that can be either your fish oils, or it could be flaxseed oils, or it could be sunflower seeds, or it could be ghee, or it could be, various things that you're looking at. So you need to make sure that your fatty acids are going in one form or another. The third is obviously you need to make sure that carbohydrates are going in. Now, again, in the middle, there was this whole my dog is grain free and my dog has to be grain free and stuff. It's not particularly true. Your dog does require carbohydrates to expend energy, and it comes through vegetables, comes through fiber. Fiber is good for the gut microbiome, and you're looking at giving them energy through grains. Can be any source. It can be oats or groats or millets or brown rice or red rice, all depending on what's available at home. But again, it can't be a key factor. It can't be the highest amount of proportion that's going into the dog's bowl. So irrespective of what kind of food you're doing, you just need to make sure that you're covering all of these bases, and we're good then.
Can you share a few examples of how switching to balanced diet has helped the dog?
So Bira is one classic example, right? I wish I could show you some before and after pictures. Yeah, I should. Okay, the transformation is just beautiful. It's crazy for the lack of a, it's amazing. So Bira was one. Other very interesting case was we had a GST pup. Wet was completely anti moving the dog to a balanced meal, but she took the leap of faith at 3 months, okay, 90 days. And that dog has grown so beautifully, all with just a balanced meal. And she did everything possible that needed to get done. Supplements were measured and put in. Food was every 4 weeks or 3 weeks, we would move to the calorific requirement of the pet. So that was another beautiful transformation. Again, let me see if I can pull something out and send it to you. Another one was a completely an indie where the pet parent came to me at her wit's end and said she is constantly puking. We've done everything. And then we just worked backwards. Yeah, it was just working on the gut. Now the dog's fine. She can pick up rubbish from the road and not vomit. It's just amazing to see these kind of transformations. So these are 3 or 4 of examples that I can think of. But of course, there are like a lot of, yeah.
Okay. What are the most common reasons for skin and digestive issues in
Gut.
dogs related to food?
Gut. It's it's just the one of the biggest reasons is the gut. Um, and gut is what you feed. So if you've done kibble all your life, like I mentioned, you're then doing food that's not biologically available to the dog. It's not species appropriate. So then you're basically putting in that much more impact on the gut. The pH is not what it's supposed to be. pH is supposed to be more alkaline for a dog. They break down meat better than they would carbs. So then you're basically putting in everything that's not working for the gut. You're not giving them enough microbiome for it to have the good and the bad flora and fauna. Um, that is one of the biggest reasons, okay, of skin conditions. Of course, then you're coupled with environmental allergies. Um, you're talking about then using chemical floor cleaners. All of these are, again, all ancillary stuff that is happening. Stress is another big factor, which we don't talk too much about. Also, one of the reasons why you see flare outs. But yeah, it's, you know, almost everything's actually related to the gut.
Okay. Are there any specific signs which indicate that the pet's diet needs to be changed?
If you're a parent who walks your dog, then poop or stool or caca or potty or whatever people want to call it, right? That is your biggest indicator. Okay. If you are, Sherlock, and you're figuring that the stool's off today, then that's your first indicator. Second is obviously behavioral change. Yeah. Suddenly your pet's become lethargic, suddenly it's become low or extremely aggressive, snappy for no reason. Then let's say both of these things are not happening. Excessive hair loss, easy to pick up because the dog's on your couch. Um, mood, I told you. These are your 3, 4 things. And then obviously vomiting, the basic things like morning puke versus an afternoon puke versus an evening puke. All of them have different relevances. You then figure out how often it's happening and is it happening often enough for you to be concerned. So these are like 3, 4 things that you can quite easily pick up at home.
Okay. What role do supplements play in managing the health of the dog?
Again, Manisha, this has become such a big topic of conversation, right? Now people
For
are saying...
humans as well. There are
Yeah,
so many supplements available now.
And advertising, everyone's pushing the marketing to your face. Supplements are only meant to bridge certain gaps. It's not meant to build or be the foundation of how healthy a dog is or how healthy a person is. And it's suddenly become such a big propaganda that no, if your dog is eating, then has to be on a multivitamin or has to be on this. Or you believe that, hey, listen, I'm doing processed food, and because now I'm adding eggshell powder to this, or because I'm adding 2 drops of vitamin E oil, it's now become a fabulous meal, right? It's only meant to bridge gaps, and not every dog requires supplements. Not And again, over supplementation is also real, right? So excessive eggshell powder can lead to an increase in the calcium absorption by the body. That can lead to 1,000 other problems. So it's just that much. It's only meant to bridge.
Could you give some practical implementation and DIY guidelines when a person is switching to balanced diet for pets?
Okay, so here I'm going to disclaim. You can't do a DIY for a dog who's medically ill. You will not do it for a puppy because their requirements are very, very different. Now, let's assume you have a healthy adult or even a healthy senior. Okay. Then you would follow this DIY that I'm giving you, but at no cost is it meant to just be an everyday. You will eventually need to move to something that's a little more balanced and a little more pragmatic. So then you would do 60-70% protein. Protein has to obviously be good quality source. You would rotate between chicken, buffalo, pork, mutton. I wouldn't want to do the novel meats because you'll save it for a rainy day. Then organs. These are standards, okay? You'll do 5% of a muscle organ, you'll do 5% of a secreting organ.
Could you give examples of
So
this?
liver could be a secreting organ. You could do gizzard or heart, which is a muscle organ. Your secreting organ should not exceed 5-6% of the total composition. Muscle organ can be slightly higher depending on what budget you're looking at. Okay. Then, of course, vegetables. Absolutely essential. there again, just simple reading up on how to balance out a soluble and an insoluble fiber. This is what builds the poop. Okay, so if you want fantastic poop, then you need to make sure that this balance is there. And grains um, or carbohydrates, again, depending on whether you want to add in 10%, 15% of grains, or you want to do sweet potato, beetroots, etc., to balance out the carbohydrates. So carbohydrates does not mean only rice. It can mean carbs that come through vegetables. Like a lot of our carbs are, a lot of our vegetables are very carb heavy. So you could use that instead of trying to move to a complete white rice, which is very high on glycemic indexes. So that's the DIY. Now in this, Manisha, some non-negotiables, the calcium, eggshell powder or bone meal powder or a bone has to go in. Zinc has to go in. Vitamin E has to go in. These are 3 or 4 things that I can think of, and of course the oils. So you'll rotate between a cold press sunflower oil, cold press coconut oil, or olive oil, or homemade ghee. Beautiful. Um, you rotate between those, and that's that. And then you're looking at some semblance of a decent meal. But again, I would disclaim it and say, don't do this day in and day out unless you're able to rotate very, very often. And then, unless you know that
So
your
why
dog
is
can
the
manage it.
rotation important?
Not necessarily if you're on a balanced meal. Okay. You could be on that same recipe for 3 months and then maybe just move to another recipe for 3 months, provided it's balanced. But now again, rotations become such a big thing. But are you rotating enough? Are you rotating between the fishes? Are you rotating between the meats? Are you rotating in the organs? In the organs also, you would only tend to go to an app and buy liver, heart, and gizzard because that's available. Are you rotating with the spleen and the pancreas? Are you getting all the benefits, all the macros that you need? So if you're simply doing rotation diets, I would not recommend it. But if you're on a balanced meal, yeah, you could be on that for the rest of your life. There's no problem at all, as long as
Okay.
it's balanced.
How about vegetarian diet? Since whatever you mentioned, there's a lot of meat portion in it,
Correct.
and which is essential for dogs.
Yes.
So, what do vegetarian families do, or how do they balance that portion?
See, dogs are not meant to be on vegetarian diets. Their pH does not allow for their body to break it down. It's not religious, it's not sentimental. That's just how they are. They're out there, right? Um, so, and also, like, a lot of people come and say, hey, listen, but I'm giving paneer and I'm giving tofu, and there is protein coming in through dals. All true. Protein, paneer does obviously have protein, so does tofu, and so does dal, right? But is your dog, how much of the paneer can you give your dog to meet that protein requirement? Now, if you do excessive paneer, you're looking at increasing the fats, then you're looking at pancreatitis. Okay? Or if you're doing just a little bit paneer, you're not meeting the protein requirements. Then how is the body repairing, building, right? It does not have all the amino acids, unlike animal protein. It covers all the amino acids, like egg. One small egg has all the amino acids that you're looking at. So this is the only reason why vegetarian diets don't work for dogs. Their longevity reduces, their quality of life drops. So what do vegetarian people do? I don't know. I've had a lot of vegetarian families converting, which is beautiful. But in situations like this, I would then say pick up kibble that is premium or super premium. If you're not comfortable having meat in the fridge, and it's also true, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with having religious sentiments. It's nothing wrong with having preferences, but maybe work around variables and say, okay, I won't get the cheapest form of kibble. I get a good brand of kibble which is balanced, and then maybe top it up with some boiled vegetables and do stuff that you can at home and make sure that you're giving the dog some bit of chance.
How do you customize needs for dogs of different breeds, different sizes, or different ages?
First is the Google form, right? But once all of that is done, your base for any decision is the RER and the MER that you're making, which is your resting energy requirement. Once you get this base, you'll start making adjustments to lifestyle. You'll start making adjustment to life stage, which is either a puppy or a healthy adult or a senior, right? or a dog that's unwell, and then you look at activity, energy, and then you take into consideration all of the other things, whether they're spayed and all of these things. I'm just covering the 3 4 most important aspects. So let's say pups. I know that their protein requirement per kilo of their body weight is a little bit more. So we will work with higher protein meals. But there's again a catch. I can't just give the dog a high protein meal because stomach is developing, organs are developing, right? So you'll break it down into slightly more nutrient dense, smaller 4 5 meals and make sure that it's going in one way or another. I say senior. I can't do a lot of protein. Body is slowing down, but we also need to make sure that the bone and joint is being managed, right? That health is being managed. Then you would work on something that supports that. So you would then add, bone broth. So you would add some collagens and things like that to support it. Now, let's say you come, there's an obese dog who comes to me. I'm looking at metabolic health. We're looking at completely cutting down the calories. Again, you're doing it slowly. So that's how it's done. Every dog has to be analyzed independently. There are no two dogs that are on the same diet plan. It can't be. Okay, even if it's on the same household, two dogs, you would, work around maybe having similar ingredients, but you would make sure that they're eating as per their requirements.
How do pet parents read labels and identify that this is a complete no for my dog?
Consumerism is real. I am still like, if there's a nice ad that gets thrown up and it looks fancy and the cover looks great, or it just says something that I want to hear about, I will buy it. Okay, but I've learned the hard way. The way to do it is to flip it over. The first 5 ingredients are typically what the meal, about 85% of the meal composition is those 5 ingredients. Now, if it is something that you can understand, like chicken or turkey or liver, okay, great, it's a good product. But let's say it says meal or byproduct, then it's just junk. So that's your first thing. Second is, if you continue reading and if you can't understand those words or if you've never heard of them, then it's definitely not fit for consumption, right?
Or if there are chemical names, a lot of chemical names are there.
Almost difficult to figure out that, hey, this is a chemical, unless you've really studied it. But it's just, if you're looking at layman, then if you can't understand what it says, then it's probably not worth feeding your dog. The other thing is, this is latest thing of breaking names. Okay, it's called a word break or a word, I don't know what the word is, but basically they want to say one word broken into 2, and then once you start adding it up, you'll realize that is the massive part of the composition of the meal. The other thing obviously is, the longer the list of nutrients or whatever they're calling in, the lesser the chance that it is healthy for your dog. So fewer names, always better.
Simpler.
Simpler, yeah.
If you could ban one ingredient from your dog food or meal which should not be given, what would it be?
This meat meal. I don't know what the hell that is. It's just, what is a meat meal? Basically, they're just taking feathers or beaks or dead animals and then putting it in and then saying meat or byproduct. I don't understand what is a byproduct. So these words you should just ban. It's very scary.
What's the one superfood you wish every pet should have every day?
One, very tough. Couple of them. Bone broth. Pumpkin, anyway, now everybody is doing. It is a superfood, but now it's becoming quite a normal thing. Spirulina, again, is very nice. Moringa is good. Berries, again, superfood, antioxidants.
Are all berries good?
Strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, yeah, all in very small. Anything good, anything in small proportions is good. What are the other superfoods that I would normally do? Eggs. How could I forget? It's a beautiful superfood.
So I have one question on chicken. We know chicken has lot of antibiotics now, what we get mostly in the market, which goes in humans as well and in dogs also, because chicken is the most common meat which you feed. So how do you ensure the chicken you get for your dog is antibiotic free?
Antibiotic free
Nothing is
is a
available.
fad. Okay. Typically, when they say antibiotic free, what we consume also will say antibiotic free on the label. It only means that that bird has not been injected with antibiotics for the last 7 to 10 days. So 7 or 10 days back would have been the last round of injections or tablets, or in whatever form it's going in, and the body sort of throws it out. It is now antibiotic free in that sense, and then they cull and then we eat. So there's nothing that's chemical free, antibiotic free. So how do you ensure is you will have to go to sources that you would trust for yourself.
So how do you do that at Hungry Hound?
We work with very large players in the market. Our meat comes from very good sources. It's stuff that I eat at home. I mean, I carry the same meat for myself and my consumption at home. And that's the only way you trust it. If you're not putting it in your stomach, then it's not going into your animal's stomach. So, yeah.
Your expert insights and final wisdom on how do you maintain nutrition for your dogs by doing
Don't
simple things at
complicate.
home.
Don't complicate life. That's just, it's actually, simplicity is key. I think that is just what it is. It's, and of course, don't take advice from people who are not meant to give you. So
So, Archana, what role does nutrition or diet play in preventing ticks and fleas in dogs?
a big one. Um, so the food builds, the right kind of food builds immunity, um, which again helps the dog in a not getting the tick fever, or let's say if they have been bitten by a tick, their recuperation period is much faster. Okay. Scientifically, what happens is you're feeding good food, your gut, your immunity is great, the blood is not palatable
Okay.
to the ticks and the fleas. So while you'll still see ticks kind of walking on the pet, you won't see them latched on. Okay. Or if there is a tick bite, the recovery is as quick as 2 3 days. Then there are the small, just to again, there are smaller things that also help prevent a tick and a flea infestation. Is very controversial, but adding a clove of garlic every morning to the meal, you cut it and put it, let it sort of air out for 30 minutes, mix it up, feed it. You do a little bit of ginger, very little, again, just small, chop, 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 put it into the food. At night, you would do a little bit of ACV, unfiltered raw,
What is ACV?
apple cider vinegar.
Oh, okay.
Again, so basically what you're doing is you're making sure that the blood is not palatable to the parasite. Okay. Other smaller things is you now have these sprays that you can make at home. Just do a quick sprinkle of powder or a spray, just pre the walks, bring the dog back and sort of just wipe the dog down. um, it it plays a big role. It's okay, so if between, let's say, two people, one person's on a great diet and one person's living off Maggie, and you're sitting in a room with a person who has a cold, who's most likely to get the cold? Or let's say both people get it, who's most likely to recover faster? So almost everything is immunity related. So yeah, it plays a big role in fending off not just a tick and a flea issue, but just so many things, right? Your dog's so much better, so much stronger.
Great, Archana. Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
sharing all the advice and insights with us.
Most welcome.